This is it. This is what you've all been waiting for, or, the somewhere north of 500,000 of you who put down $1,000 to pre-order one, anyway. This is the Tesla Model 3, the long-awaited solution to Tesla's biggest problem. It sells cars that most people can't afford. It's the Model 3 that stands poised to move Tesla from hallowed, aspirational startup to legitimate, skeptic-free corporate success. That's a lot of pressure to put on a single, $35,000 car. And there's one problem already: the car you're looking at actually costs $56,500. That moves it from being a competitor of the $37,495 Chevrolet Bolt EV and up into the range of a nicely equipped BMW 3 Series, or even a base 530e. How? Let's start there. The Tesla Model 3 theoretically starts at $35,000. For that you'll get a car with a healthy 220 miles of range and a 0-60 time of around 5.6 seconds. That performance is on par with a $40,000 BMW 330i, and a few tenths quicker than the $45,600 BMW 330e hybrid. However, for now at least, you can only get the Model 3 long range, and that starts at $44,000. There's a good chance you'll want to add another $5,000 for the premium package, which adds modern necessities such as heated seats. Tesla's much-hyped autopilot driver assistance package is a further $5,000, and if you want to add the future full self-driving capacity, that'll be $3,000 more. Add another $1,500 for the wheels and, finally, $1,000 to get the red multi-coat paint. On the car we tested, it adds up to a final sticker price of $56,500, plus a further $1,000 destination charge. Yes, you could get away for as little as $44,000 right now, but then you'd be rolling on a car with no heated seats, and when you're talking this much money, that just feels wrong. If I were buying, I'd skip the paint and find my own wheels to save $2,500. I'd also take the gamble and leave off the future self-driving option, giving me a price of $54,000. Just for comparison's sake, a BMW 530e hybrid starts at $52,650. After configuring and paying for the thing, an owner's first experience with a Model 3 will be unlocking it, and believe it or not, that's a task requiring some explanation. When you take delivery of your Model 3, you won't receive a traditional, metal key or even a fancy wireless fob with squishy buttons like on the Model S and X. Instead, you get a pair of black, chrome-embossed cards that use the same refit technology that many hotels use. Just tap the card onto the B-pillar and, open sesame, the door unlocks. Tap it again on the center console to enable the ignition. It sounds simple enough, and indeed it is, but if you're thinking this is decidedly less convenient than having the car recognize a wireless key fob as you approach, you're not wrong. Thankfully, there's another way to open the car. It takes just a few taps to pair the Model 3 to an Apple or Android phone. Then the car will recognize you as you approach, unlocking whenever you get near and, optionally, locking again as you depart. You can also launch the Tesla app on your phone to unlock the trunks or flash the lights, and while that's more cumbersome than pushing a dedicated button on a key fob, it does at least mean one less thing to carry everywhere. One less thing to lose, too. In practice this works pretty well, but on a few occasions I was left standing by the car for a couple of awkward seconds waiting for it to unlock itself. There seems to be some lag in the system that hopefully Tesla will tune out in the future OTA update. Since it's a Tesla, you can control a whole lot more through the app too, including preconditioning the temperature and checking charging status. But, crucially, you can't use the summon feature that wirelessly and autonomously pulls the Model S or X out of a parking spot. That, I'm told, will come later. Once you figure out how to unlock the thing, you have access to the most distinctive interior I've ever seen in a modern car intended for the masses. It's truly unlike anything else in production today. The dashboard is a single unit with only slightly more curves than a straight edge, yet all the presence of a EMS design. It's dominated, at least on the car I tested, by a strip of raw wood just a few shades darker than blonde. And it's punctuated beneath by a line of brushed metal. There are no vents, at least not in the traditional sense, no gauge cluster and, ultimately, no distractions. Air flows from a seam that runs the length of the dash and from various other vents hidden in the cabin. The look is stark and refreshing and, combined with the openness provided by the glass roof, it's truly a remarkable looking place. It's so zen that I half expected a whiff of incense the first time I sat down. And it doesn't just look good. There's plenty of headroom, even in the back, and everywhere is festooned with storage cubbies and cup holders, a big improvement over the Model S. There's even a dedicated phone charging area you can set up with your choice of USB Type-C or Lightning connector, though sadly my Note 8 with the slim case wouldn't fit. A good-sized trunk lurks behind the 60/40 split folding seats. And a petite frunk, Tesla's name for a front trunk, in the nose provides a little more space. The Model 3 offers 15 total cubic feet of cargo capacity, about half that of the Model S, but more than the BMW 3 Series. And that it does so in such a beautiful space is admirable, but that aesthetic appeal and purity comes at a cost, and that cost is usability. Things that you can simply and easily do directly in a normal car, or even in a Model S or X, here require a series of taps on the new, 15-inch touchscreen. Model X. Now the company's moved to a traditional landscape orientation, and I think that's a shame. The vertical orientation quickly became my preference, giving more view down the road for navigation or, indeed, space for multiple apps running one atop the other. The reasoning for the change here is clear. Since the Model 3 doesn't have a traditional gauge cluster behind the steering wheel, the only place for a speedometer is on that central display. By positioning it high and in landscape, the speedo actually isn't too far from your direct line of sight, lower in portrait, like on the S or X, and it'd be a glance too far. In general driving I actually don't mind this positioning one bit. It takes a bit of time, but you quickly become used to glancing down right instead of just down to check your speed. However, it's when you need to interact with the display that things start to go wrong. Roughly the left quarter of the display is occupied by a large vertical section showing the speed up top, autopilot status below, assuming the car is so equipped, and, on the bottom, a series of cards you can swipe through. The leftmost card has a series of shortcuts for things such as showing the rear view camera, displaying the charging interface, toggling voice control and jumping to the wiper page. A swipe to the next card brings up the wiper controls, which is where the first issue lies. Unlike the vast majority of cars on the road, the Model 3 lacks a stalk or indeed any physical controls to manipulate the wipers, beyond a single button on the headlight stalk on the left. Push the button for a single sweep of the wipers, hold it to spray the Washington. If you want to actually turn on the wipers you need to either swipe or tap your way into the wiper interface and toggle them there. Now, the Model 3 has rain-sensing wipers and they work pretty well, but during the 3 days I tested the car in California I had to manually engage the wipers on at least 3 separate occasions because they didn't toggle themselves, or they weren't going fast enough for my preference. On one occasion I was making a hands-free phone call while driving through some heavy fog and mist. When you make a call, a fifth card appears to display phone controls. The mist was accumulating quickly enough on the windscreen that I wanted to turn on the wipers. To do that, I had to make 3 swipes and then a tap on the touchscreen. That's a very long time to take your eyes off the road when driving in the dark through fog. And since this is a touchscreen rather than a physical control, it's much harder to build muscle memory. After 60 seconds in a normal car you'll be able to toggle the wipers blindfolded. On my 3rd day in the Model 3 I still had to look down at that screen. And then there's the adaptive cruise control. In addition to losing physical wiper controls, somewhere along the line the Model 3 also misplaced the cruise control stalk featured on the Model S and X. That single stalk, which makes it easy and intuitive to change vehicle speed and follow distance, is now replaced by a clumsy mix of physical and touchscreen controls. Press downward on the shift lever while in motion to turn on cruise control, or double press to engage autopilot and auto steer. At this point, if you want to change your speed you then need to go over to the touchscreen and tap on a very small plus to increase speed, or minus to decrease. Hold either one to change your speed in 5 miles per hour increments. If that sounds unfortunate, it gets worse. To change the vehicle follow distance you actually need to go into the vehicle settings, then select the autopilot submenu and tap another set of tiny plus and minus icons. At first I thought this was no big deal. How often do you really change fall distance? As I would quickly learn, the answer is more often than I thought. If I'm driving in heavy congestion, then I want to be quite close to the car ahead, but if I'm in lighter traffic, I prefer to be further away. Similarly, if road conditions changed during the drive, I quite often found myself wanting to adjust follow distance. Frankly, I never realized how often I tweak this control because, on a normal car, it's so easy to do I don't even think about it. Here, having to reach again to the touchscreen and look away from the road, made it a chore. Having to dig into a sub-menu? That, frankly, is borderline dangerous, as is having to swipe 3 times just to get to the wiper controls. I expressed my concerns to Tesla representatives, who were eager for feedback and indicated that changes are coming. I was told that the wiper control interface is continuing to evolve and that, in the future, the button that currently does a single wipe will somehow be expanded to actually enable the wipers, presumably through a series of taps. I was also directed to this Elon Musk tweet, where he indicates the car is actually still learning to better detect water in the future. Hopefully, it'll learn to detect fog too. On the cruise control side, Tesla indicated that the right thumb wheel on the steering wheel will be repurposed to allow the changing of speed. As it stands, only the left thumb wheel is fully utilized, for adjusting volume, muting and changing tracks when listening to music. Those changes will improve on the currently unsafe Model 3 interface, but they will not fix all that ails the car. Regardless of the motivation, deleting key physical controls on the Model 3 creates a user experience that is fundamentally less convenient and more cumbersome, all for the sake of removing a single, 3-inch stalk from the steering column. There are other frustrations, too. The way the display pokes out of the dash means it infringes into the cabin space, to the point where 2 members of the roadshow staff with long legs found it hitting their knees. It's also glossy, so glare can be an issue, and in bright sunlight it's a little hard to read, never a problem with a proper, shrouded gauge cluster. Finally, while the software itself works well and the responsiveness seems to be improved over the Model S and X, neither Android Auto nor Apple CarPlay are available here, and skipping both is borderline inexcusable these days. AM radio is also lacking, though FM now works. It was absent in the earliest cars to ship. Slacker and TuneIn are both integrated in the system, and Bluetooth A2DP streaming from your phone is supported, but you'll find no 3.5mm line in. Thank goodness you'll spend most of your time in a Model 3 looking forward through the expansive windscreen and not down at the dashboard, because this car is a joy to drive. Initial acceleration off the line shows that this is a quick car, not ludicrous quick by any means, but far more responsive than a Chevy Bolt EV, or indeed, just about anything electric short of a Model S. It's more than capable of putting a smile on your face at every stoplight. The Model 3 jets away with barely a whir from its electric drivetrain, a silent rush of torque that, in concert with the minimalist interior, makes motoring down the highway a calming experience. It also gives you more opportunity to appreciate the sound system, which more than lives up to what you'd expect in a car costing in excess of $50,000.